Good evening, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rashmita, and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru, India. This session will run over the next 60 minutes, including Q&A. The session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Reactor YouTube channel. I will share the link to our YouTube channel in the chat section soon. I would now like to welcome Lakshmi, Vaisakh, and Vivek, our speaker for today's session. Lakshmi is the COO and product evangelist at Prophase. Our next speaker, Vaisakh, is the CEO and Chief Architect at Prophaze. And of course, we have our Azure Happy Hour host, Vivek, who works at Microsoft as Senior Cloud Advocate. But before we start the session, I would request you all to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. But for now, I will hand over to Vivek to begin the session. Over to you, Vivek.
Hey Rashmita, thank you very much. And I would like to welcome Lakshmi and Vaishak for this Azure Happy Hour session. And I'm not sure you know about Azure Happy Hour. Azure Happy Hour it's a kind of show like we drive every Friday. It's a fun show. It's a chat show, and also sometimes you will see only me doing demos there on Azure and open source on Azure and integrations with Azure. So that's what Azure Happy Hour is all about. And yeah, and today's specifically today's discussion is more about how to handle bad bots. And I was pretty much interested in understanding this one because I read that from your discussion when we had this discussion as well. You talked about like 20% of the web traffic is basically a bad bots trying to attack your system, right? So and that's interesting. And I also want to understand what are those bots are and what is this when do you call it as a bad bot and all those stuff. So yeah, and this should be an interesting for the audience as well. So yeah, Lakshmi and Vaishak, just let's get started with what's a bot. What does that bot mean, and then we will take it further.
Sure, Vivek. So thanks, Rashmika, for that introduction. And I hope, Vivek, you're happy today that you have two people accompanying you on a Friday rather than sitting alone and giving demos. Okay, so let's have a good discussion together. So in engaging, we also would like to engage all the participants so that it's not just a one-to-many show. Okay, so let's get started. So to answer about Vivek's question, let me just share my screen so that you could see my. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Is it
we can.
visible?
We can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so basically the topic of today's session is mainly impact of malicious bots on web applications. Okay, so before that, we would actually have to understand how important data management is in today's world. So, according to a recent study by McKinsey, it was found that mid-sized institutions with 5 billion of operating costs actually they spend 250 million of data, 250 million on data. So that might be across third-party data sourcing, architecture, or governance and consumption. So it is a huge amount. And in fact, the annual cost of data consumption alone is 90 million. So that itself says that data is actually playing a very significant role in all the organizations. As everybody knows, data is the new oil, and managing it is it's a priority for most of the organizations. And according to another report by Gartner, it is believed that poor data quality can be actually responsible for an average loss of 15 million per year. So that is another significant amount. And data market is actually increasing. So if you see that from 2020 to 2025, is expected to increase by nearly 60%. That is like approximately from 78 billion to 123 billion. So that is a huge increase, right? And So that way everybody is going into the data management world, and organizations are willing to invest any amount of money into proper data management so that they drive business accordingly. The business decisions, everything is taken based on the data. Suppose if you're an e-commerce flat organization or you are a banking organization, everything is data driven. The whole new age is actually data driven. I mean, you take the analytics, you take the marketing data, the sales data, everything. I mean, the organization growth is actually predicted based on the data. So, what happens if there is a rise of something called bots? So, the rise of bots, fake users, and invalid traffic is actually jeopardizing that investment. For organizations, they are actually investing a lot of money into data management, and you can see that all of these tiny bots are actually coming in, and they're tampering the data, which were, I mean, people will think that okay, all of this is human traffic, but actually there's something called a major portion of the web traffic is actually driven by crawlers, scrapers, automation tools of fake accounts, proxy users, malicious bots, and such things. So let's see what that is. So that is what is going to answer Vivek's question about what are bots. So bots are basically termed as autonomous programs. They're capable of acting on instructions. Okay, suppose earlier we used to write computer programs, so that everything gets automated. So automation, like we had RPA, robotic process automation, wherein all the repeated tasks were actually automated, and whatever was done manually is now done through automated programs. So, and when were they first born? Okay, so the birth year of so-called bot is actually June 1993, so it's way back. And so that time it's like you couldn't imagine a bot. So I mean, I've never heard of the bot until the recent past. So these are basically large group of remotely controlled zombie systems. They just act like zombies. They just without any deviation from what they're told. They just act without. I mean, they just act according to whatever they are told, and they just complete the task. So it can be either controlled or upgraded by internet relay chat or peer to peer, peer to peer. Okay, these are the two types. And bots
So
in general.
I
Yes.
have a question here.
Yeah.
So, if I have to, if I have to build this bot, like how would I build it? So, if I'm thinking that I'm a hacker and I'm trying to build this bot, so how would I build this bot?
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe
Can I
I can just.
answer that? Yeah, can I answer that, Lakshmi, or you want to go
Yeah,
ahead?
yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks for I'm also interested in building bots, right? So so I
So
thought
he's
like
too passionate.
yeah.
Yes.
So typically I mean the first thing is what is your intention? What you're trying to do, right? So based on that, your architecture and everything will comes into mind. So let's say for the sake of the agenda of our conversation, let's say I want to, the typical thing you can see is that the stock trading bots, right? See, I mean, I'm just coming core into the point. So typically, you're having a stock trading platform, whatever it be, a foreign exchange platform, or it can be a crypto platform, right? So you're trading with the currencies, right? So every time you just log in, you see the value rising. Okay, the stock market. Okay, there's a you just put the money in another share. You take the money from another share, put it in other. So there is always a human intelligence is working, right? So of course you have to do the login and you have to analyze it. Your intelligence has to work. Now just think of a scenario. You don't want to do all these stuffs. All these boring stuffs. Rather, you just automate that process. So let's say you have an account on a trading platform. At first what you will do, okay, I need to simulate a browser, right? You need to simulate a browser. You just there are two ways of dealing with it. So you simulate a browser. You just hard code your username and password, and you post it, right? So all these are events. All these are events which can be handled programmatically, right? And you access that website, you log in, then you go to your account page, and you get some insights from a third-party API. You also integrate that, and that API is suggesting to buy this stock. Now you're using that information from that API, and you are buying the stock here, right? So that kind of automation can be done, right? So it will do all the things. Now gradually, you can keep on adding more logics to it, and finally after 1 year, you will have a full-fledged bot which does automatic trading for you. I mean, the sky is the limit, right? So you can build anything on top of it. So you can see many use cases. I mean, grayish. I mean, the white hat people, the grayish people, the black hat, and all people does it, right? So for instance, one of the main problem with the IRCTC, you know that, right? The Indian Railway Ticketing Booking System, and we never found a time where it is not slow. Always we have to wait and book the Talkar and all those things in all the time. I remember that, right? So there also, I think there are a lot of people having automated bots which book the tickets. I mean, with respect to the online air ticketing apps, their major problem is this automated ticketing bots, right? So they find the flight fare is low. As soon as the flight fare goes low, automatically the bot comes and book it, right? So naturally, what happens is that the booking is happening in a bulk. So the airline company, the booking companies never imagined this use case, because they are designed that to make sure that the human will come, they scroll down, find a good pricing and lowest fare, they book it. But what happens? The competitor comes and book the ticket in bulk, right? So this is one of the main ongoing challenge happening in the industry. Wherever there is an application, the web application is there, there's an online option to process it. Now the hackers will think in the way, how can I automate this? How can I do the bulk kind of a thing? I can book 2 tickets at a time. The bot can book 100 tickets at a time or 1,000 tickets at a time, right? So all these things. So this is so we talk about Microsoft, Google, Facebook, the employees working in different companies, right? Building very good software. There's a parallel world. The parallel universe is there, out there. The people who are making bots and earning millions of dollars with it. See, let me tell you the scenario. It's not limited to that point. If you look at YouTube views, the Instagram likes, the Facebook, you thought that, hey, this guy got 3 million views. How he did that? I mean, it may not be the case. It's a bot doing it, right? So this is this is a scenario. I mean, all the companies are investing. I mean, it's a real tough game. As far as I know, the Google employs more than 5,000 employees only for this purpose. The fake YouTube views, right? So I mean, it's not only stops there. There the click fraud management. You have the main business of the Google and all of the people are AdWords, right? The advertisements. So what happens? Automatic bots will come and click on the ads. There is the automated bots doesn't have any wish to purchase a product. it's only wish to click on the ad, and so that the advertiser will lose the money, the publisher will also lose the money, right? So if you dig deeper, you can see a lot of use cases where the bots are used for the negative purposes, right? So that is the highlight of this session. So naturally, you need to find a use case, maybe a good use case, not a grayish use case, right? So you automate. I mean, it comes with automation. I mean, everything is automated, right? So I mean, whatever technology is invented, I mean, the good and the evil, the God and the Satan, all these things are opposites, right? The good and the bad. So naturally, whenever we invent a technology, whenever automation is in place, naturally the opposite force has to come. That is a law of the nature, right? So similarly, this is also happening in this world. So this is a big problem right now, and the companies are losing a lot of revenue. So Lakshmi was telling about 20% of the traffic is bot. So the very recent report says that it's gone up to 40%. Believe it or not, right? It's gone up to 40%. So that means it can go up to 50% also. It can go up to 40%. It can go up to 50% also. You can look at the latest, Forrester report. So that means if a company is spending, let's say, a mid-sized company is spending 10 lakh per month for infrastructure. So that means 5 lakh is spent for maintaining the bots. 50% of traffic is bot. Naturally, the simple math, right? The 5 lakh you are spending a month for the bot, right? How can people, the providers like us can do the value addition and prevent these things, right? So that's a big another topic. So yeah, so I think you got a fair idea about how the bots are ruling, right?
I guess we got a very
I
vast idea.
yeah, it's basically what I understood is you gave me a lot of ideas to build bots now. And probably
And
even audience
also,
could have picked it up. Audience
yeah,
also picked it up.
the
Yeah,
secret
sorry.
behind why celebrities have so many followers and likes and everything on YouTube. So I say you just disclose their very trade secret. Now we know that just by seeing the number of viewers or the number of followers, you shouldn't blindly actually accept that as a matter of fact, right? Yes.
Lakshmi, one thing let me add. Hope I didn't add some evil thoughts to people to mind. So rather you can use your skill to protect people against these bots, or you can build some bots will do some good things to the world, right? You can use that. No, why should we think negatively? So in the context of the webinar, I was telling this point. Yeah, Lakshmi, you can
Yep.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's there is positive and there is negative of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just
Okay, let's
be
go.
positive here. And so as simple to answer that question is just that the hackers, they write a few lines of code and they get, they take in charge some of the systems, and it becomes a part of a big network called botnets, and then they do make them do different tasks. So that may be either positive or negative, and that's how we actually categorize bots. As Vaisakh already said, we have good bots and bad bots. So more than nowadays you can see that more than 50% of all the traffic in the internet is actually bots. So it actually includes good and bad. Okay, so what do you say? I mean, which are the good bots? So let's see the major good bots, which are categorized into 4 categories. So first one is the chat bots. So most of the repetitive tasks, like if you go to a bank, if you are actually using an online banking application, and you would want to answer many of your queries. So now you can see that there are, AI automated chatbots. And most of your queries are actually answered by the chatbot. So it reduces a lot of manual intervention. So 90% of most of the banks, have repetitive tasks. So these could actually be done and taken over by the bots and done more efficiently than how it was actually done by the humans. So that is actually chatbots, and then we have crawlers. So the crawlers actually include the search engine crawlers. I mean, it's also called as spiders. They crawl over the internet to index various content over the internet so that it can be indexed, and that is how we actually get all the information in front of us. You just Google for anything and you get it. So how do you actually get that? So that is done with the help of crawlers. These crawlers would be crawling all over the globe and through the internet and searching for what all content is there in which part of the globe, and it just when you just type it and you get everything indexed in front of you. Another one is transactional bots. So they are used for doing various transactions in between the conversations that you actually have. Might be banking transaction or anything similar to that. Another one is the informational bots, which we are all very familiar, and most of us might have it in our homes. So these include the Alexas, the Siris, and everything else. So I guess many people, even the kids, they don't like to actually live left alone without an Alexa. At least they would want an Alexa to accompany them so that they could play with it. It's become like a toy for any kid in today's world. So that is about good bots. Now moving on to the bad bots. So as every positive side, there is a negative side to it. So it's not just the good bots that are actually playing their action in today's world. We have also the bad bots. So those are hackers that do some kind of malicious intentions. They hack into a system, get some, steal some content, and use or post it on the dark web or something. Scrapers are the ones who actually go to a website or a application and scrape out content. So it might be an e-commerce website or it might be a real estate website. So they actually scrape the content and actually steal it. So it's kind of some putting it about taking somebody else's property and using it as yours. Spammers, they spam, like we have the spam in they spam the inboxes, or spam social media, things like that. And impersonators, so somebody, the bots might be acting as a human, and then they would be sending out the wrong messaging. So I mean, all of these things you could actually see in the during the elections. You can see a lot of bots actually come into action. So when you take the results of various campaigns, most of it might be actually bots. So you cannot even do a social media campaign thinking that all of it is actually human. So that is how, that's the state that we are going to. And we should actually expect that these many percent of the, the campaigns or the data that we get, many of it must be bots. So that is how the bots are playing all around, and we have to be more cautious about, we cannot follow any data blindly. Now, let's have a look into what these bots are actually used in various platforms for doing different kind of attacks. One of the attack that they do is the distributed denial of service. So it's just like if you have a main road, the whole of the road is actually blocked with traffic, and you cannot enter into that through a subway. So that is so the most of the web traffic to your application will be loaded with, or flooded with traffic, and then the actual users will not be actually able to access your application. Suppose you are having a big billion day sale on an e-commerce platform, and if you have a competitor there sending in a lot, flooding your traffic, and then the real users will not be able to use yours, and they would actually use the other one. So that is something called as distributed denial of service, or DDoS attack. And then we actually have the spam and click frauds. As I already told, we actually use the low paid workers, or laborers. They're actually made to click on the paid ads, so that they increase the click through rates. And also they can also be used to actually launch new exploits or worms into a system. So all of this are the various forms in which bots actually attack various platforms. So we have to be cautious about all of these various attacks. Moving on to the impact. So now we saw what all ways actually the bots attack, bad bots attack.
Lakshmi,
Yes.
just one slide, just come back to that slide. So here, so distributed denial of service is basically induced into the system, right? So that's a there is a traffic and you induce that into the traffic. But the
Yes.
rest of the two things, how does that get induced? Because the distributed denial of service, you know which link to induce all this stuff and you do the activities. But the rest of the two things, how does that work from a bot perspective?
Yeah, so basically you spam, you send in like a flood, like you spam a network. So like the bots will actually be used to click on various paid ads.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, so that way you will actually be getting the results of, output of that particular
Okay.
ad campaign would be, it not be the right one. Okay, so it's actually bots and not humans actually clicking on that particular ad. So that is
Yeah,
how
yeah.
it.
So typical. Let me give you a typical example. So what they will do is they will render that. I get access to the homepage of a website, right? Then I have the access to the entire HTML block. I can go through the entire DOM, right? And I can understand that, okay, this part of the something which got Google ads indication.com, right? Then that I can know that it's a Google ad. So I will get that element. I will get the href, the link through it, and I get that and I execute a command over there. So that's how I do the click activity. The bot will do the click activity. So it's intelligent enough to identify wherever the ads are there. It will click on it. And I can see that on our platform we receive millions of attacks like this. So typically what happens is that we can see that they are pretty random as well. They don't automatically clicks. They were pretty random, more human than human, right? Very pretty natural. They have and they click on it on a very, and they come from, an interesting thing is that it's not coming from a normal IP address. It's coming from the pure land IP address. That means a Vodafone user, an Airtel user, Airtel mobile user. So, it can be a BSNL user. So it's not a data center, AWS or Azure kind of an IP address. It looks like it's a real. So we never know. Their board network is so wide. We might install one app on our mobile. We accidentally click something, and we are also part of a board network. And one click came from our mobile phone. We never know. So this is the case happening, right? So typically, when we install applications on the mobile, we give all the permissions and next done, right? So there we are just enrolling into the board network, right? So we never know. The original application providers on the Google Play may not be the real problem guys. Their application got infected and re-uploaded. Things like that can happen, right? So that's how they are pretty anonymous, and they try to enter and do the thing, right? And similarly, the second option, launching pad for new exploits. So let's say there's a new vulnerabilities there. So for instance, recently we had this log4j vulnerability in the cybersecurity world. Everybody was talking about. So that is affecting those people with the Java applications with log4j module enabled, right? So what happens is that um, I cannot go to each and every website and see the log4j vulnerabilities available or not, right? So a basic or an intelligent coder, a hacker will, what he will do is he will try to identify whether what it is running on. Is it Java application, right? If it is a Java application, if the website is running on or the API or web portal is running on a Java application, automatically it will launch this log4j attack. So with the bots, he can just scroll like Google bot, and go to numerous number of websites and see the vulnerability exists. Okay, the vulnerability exists. Then again, automatically it can send the exploit, right? You can send the payload with exploit to that server. So they are using to infect. So that's how they're getting the root access to that server. Then automatically that server is added to their bot network, and further attacks were started from those machines. So that's how it can go on a very wide spread and spread like anything, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess
Got
that
it. Got it.
answers your question. So basically,
Yeah.
it's wherein humans cannot go everywhere to actually launch that attack. I mean, if the hackers have to go themselves, it will take a longer time, and it will not be executed successfully. So they will use bots so that it's multiple in number, and so that they could easily find out the target destinations and launch the exploit. That is how bots are being helpful. So now let's move on to how, what are the impacts of these bad bots? Because every business with an online presence, so as I told, be it e-commerce or any vertical that you actually take it. So everything that has got and nowadays everything, I mean, all businesses have got online presence because it's the post-pandemic era, and everybody has to work online. So that way is regularly bombarded by bad bots on its websites, APIs, or be it mobile applications. So if that goes actually unchecked, then the businesses will have to pay a very huge price for it every day. And every second you can expect a lot of bot attacks. So, and they'll cause a lot of data breaches and spam your network, everything. So and another thing is that as humans, we sleep for either like 5 to 8 hours. But the thing about bots is they don't have to actually sleep. So they never sleep. And so they are active 24 bar 7 bar 365. And that is what makes it more dangerous. So you will have to actually keep monitoring your application every 24 bar 7, irrespective of if there is an attack or not. And bad bots are on your website. Actually, they are here for a purpose, be it either to scrape the content or just to flood your traffic. So they have a particular purpose. So if you're able to actually find out what the purpose they are here for, then it becomes easy to address the problem. So that holds good for any problem. So, and let's see how bots actually attack a vulnerable application. So, as Vaisakh was saying, we had the recent log4j incident wherein the log4j library version 2 was very vulnerable, and it was causing like anybody could enter your system and take access of any kind of applications. So this was causing a major havoc into the industry, and nobody knew like where all these kind of libraries were actually used. So this actually led to a lot of zero-day exploits, and hackers all over the globe, they got very excited, and they tried to exploit maximum out of that particular incident. So you could see that accounts have been taken over. So a particular user's account can be taken over by another bot, and they try to steal their sensitive customer data. So if you're actually on a particular application, the bots will actually log into your application. They might take any privilege or admin privilege or anything, and then they take out all your customer data. Suppose you're a real estate sector, they could take out all the listings of all the the plots or the whatever is being sold, and also committing a lot of frauds and also disrupting commerce. These are the things, I mean, how the bad bots actually impact vulnerable applications. So now let's see which are the verticals and how the various bots actually affect these verticals in different ways. It's not that bots attack all the verticals in the same manner. They have different patterns, and they have different motives to actually attack different verticals. So let's just go through a few of it, and it's actually unlimited. But if any of you are from the e-commerce industry, then the biggest problem the bots cause is they actually do price scraping. So they just take up all the pricing of all, so like nowadays we could see, if you're actually shopping on Amazon or Flipkart or anything, you could actually compare the prices, and then you could go to a price which offers the minimum pricing. So these kind of things happen because there are bots. And if you're a digital publishing industry, then content, you're actually the content is being actually taken away from your website, and then it's being posted somewhere else. And if you're travel and tourism industry, there'll be a lot of upselling, cross-selling opportunities. Many people would actually try to steal your travel package and post it on their application, and all these kind of things happen because of bots. And finance is actually attacked. A lot of brute force finance or fintech industry, a lot of brute force attacking happens. They try to actually that is mainly for the financial, trying to get grab a lot of money out of it. And also real estate, which actually scrapes out a lot of listing information. So now, as you see, everybody wants data more than anything, nowadays, because that is how they can actually earn a lot of money. That is why they're actually using bots in the negative way. Now, moving on to, so every problem has to have a solution, and you will have to dig your head and beat it up and crack your brains to find out some way so that you could actually solve this problem. So let's move on to how we can actually detect if these are bots or not, and if it is actually a human or a bad bot or good bot, and how we could actually mitigate them. So first of all, let's answer this basic question. So how do we detect bots or a bot traffic? Suppose you find there is an application, and the traffic is actually going normal, so then it's fine. But there is a sudden inexplicable increase in the analytics metrics. Okay, so there is a high or a spike in a particular single page. There's a lot of traffic or something. So that is something anomalous. And also, if you have a high page views, but suppose on a particular view, on a particular page, the views go really high. So that also means that there's something malicious happening. And also the traffic to a website, if the speed, fluctuates, and also the performance varies suddenly. Okay, all these are sudden spikes. And also the site listing, there's unexpected locations. So you have people, suppose you have an application in India, and you're only expecting it's a local vendor or selling something, and you're expecting only traffic from the nearby places, nearby cities or whatever. So, and suddenly you start getting traffic from Russia or China or Korea or somewhere. So that means it's unexpected, and that is what a bot is. That is how you can actually detect that it is a bot. And also some from data centers. Usually, so earlier, most of the bot traffic usually came from Azure or DigitalOcean, but now even the hackers are getting smarter. So they, as Vaisakh was already saying, that they try to make it more legit, even that you could even get confused whether it's actually a bot or it's a human being, because they try to be more human than human actually are. So these are the ways by which bots are actually trying to fight with humans, and making the job of security, CISOs or CIOs very difficult. They're putting their life into risk to actually solve this problem. So the few of the steps that they take to actually fight off the bad bot traffic is they use the device identification. So they look into what kind of device is actually is used to actually enter into your application. So, they'll get either it might be a mobile application, a device, a desktop, or whatever. So that could be identified. And as we all know, even though we have been bugged by, like I have been personally myself bugged to select all the cycles or all the buses in that captcha, but it is actually used to find out whether you are an actual human being or a bot. But even hackers are getting smarter, and they know various means to actually break this captures and recaptures so that they can enter into a system just like humans can. and also disallow access from suspicious data centers. So if you feel that a lot of traffic is actually coming from a data center, then obviously it can be a bot. So that way you can restrict the access, and also use account protection methodologies, and also sometimes using a good content delivery network can be a good solution against basics and moderately small bots, which also helps in mitigating DDoS attacks to a particular limit. Another major way to actually mitigate mod bots are actually using a web application firewall, which has a rate limiting feature. So bots come in a huge volume, and so that you will have to limit the rate, but the rate limiting shouldn't happen blindly, because that actually the traffic that comes into your application, it can have the real users as well as the bots. So you cannot just cut down the traffic just like, okay, I'm going to cut it down by 50%, and only the 50% is going to be allowed to enter your application. But that 50% might be only bots, and you're actually cutting out the rest 50, which were actually human traffic. So that way, I mean, that is not the right way. So you will have to identify, which is the legitimate traffic and which is not the legitimate traffic, and then only you can cut it out. So you can, that way you are not unnecessarily wasting your resources in actually serving bots. That way, a good web application firewall will actually help limit your bots to a great extent. And this will also monitor the number of users on a given website, which is tracked using their IP actually. So that is what actually helps in mitigating bots. So that's it from my end. So this was a brief about what bots are, so that I hope that I was able to cater to anybody who was totally new to bots, or people, people who knew all of it. Vaisakh will be actually able to take you through the detailed mitigation techniques and how a web application firewall will actually help you, and also a few case studies on how we could mitigate bots, and more on bot detection and mitigation. So thank you all for your
So,
patient listening. Yes, yes, Vivek.
from a Prophase perspective, the more you work more on the WAF, right?
Yes,
Option of solving the problem. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
Vaishak,
So
floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So any particular question you
A-
have,
And
Vivek? Yeah.
so, by the way, I mean, audience, you can also type in the questions in the chat, um, and we will obviously, enable mics, once we have done with all the discussion, so that you can also ask questions to Lakshmi or Vaishak. Okay, so go ahead, Vaishak. Let's go
Yeah.
ahead.
So Lakshmi, I can share my screen, right? Yeah.
yeah. So I have to stop sharing. Yeah. So, and also Vivek, so one of the things is like Prophaze. One of the solution is bot mitigation. So other than bot mitigation, we have DDoS mitigation, a layer 7 DDoS protection, and also like we have two kinds of deployments, like cloud deployment and on-premise. So all these are things, a few of the USPs that we have, and Vaishakh will specifically be talking about how bot mitigation can be done in the Prophaze platform. Yes, Vaishakh, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Vivek, and thank you, Lakshmi. Yeah, so typically, the bots are on different areas. I mean, it not only restricted to the web traffic. Different applications. There are different protocols, like remote desktop protocol is there. The RP, remote process calls, RPC kind of things are there. So there are different protocols, and of course there are bots on all these different categories. Now, if you look at the context of what we are doing, we concentrate on the web layer, the layer 7. They call us layer 7 bot mitigation. That's what we do. So typically, why this area? Because if you look at these days, typically, each and every business got a web application which is exposed to the internet. So we communicate through these web APIs, and it's not restricted to the web or the website or something. If you look at your mobile apps, the backend of your mobile apps are API calls. I mean, what you see on the front end is your window, right? The UI, but the backend calls are always HTTP calls, and there also the challenge is there. So we concentrate on a web application firewall. So on a high level, it's a web application, like a web security platform. So it includes different parameters, different components like web application firewall, API security, the bot mitigation, the layer 7 DDoS mitigation, CDN solutions. And there is kind of the DevOps perspective is also there with the platform. So typically, what we did was, our entire architecture is based on the Kubernetes. So you might have know about the Kubernetes. So it's like, from the dedicated server era to cloud era, everybody was talking about AWS, Azure and all, right? And within the cloud, there is the Kubernetes, the containers came into existence, right? So it's like, the migration from the monolithic to the microservices. So what Prophaze does is, the Prophaze was born on the native cloud. I mean, there is a cloud and there is a native cloud is there. People call us cloud native, right? So Prophaze is born on the cloud native platform on the Kubernetes, and we cater to the Kubernetes customer primarily. And of course, then we expand our product portfolio to the SaaS customers as well. Now, talking about the product line, the main feature of the product is kind of a behavioral based detection. So that is how we can link the bot with this, since it's not based on the role and signature, so you cannot have a role and signature against the bots always. It's very what I say, very very creative, very very creative kind of applications they are, but you cannot rely on a particular rules or signature to bot the blocks, but you need a behavioral based system. So since our entire technology is based on the behavioral base, we use supervised and unsupervised machine learning models, to find the behavior of the users and to make sure that whether it's a human being or not. Typically, Lakshmi was pointing about the fact about the captcha. Just think how many times we are filling the captcha on a daily basis, right? 5 times, 6 times. So because that means that it's an inability. The machine, the current systems are not capable to understand whether it's a human being or not. That's why they are giving the caption of captcha, the option of captcha to the users. If that was so intelligent, if the products are very intelligent, I mean, they couldn't, they need not show it. They can easily ban it, right? So what we does is, our ultimate aim is like a captcha-less bot prevention, so that you don't need to deal with the captcha anymore. So that is our vision of the product, but we are going on that path as well. So in this context, let me show you some real-time examples. So you can see that we got around last 24 hours we got around 41,000 requests and 59 attacks were blocked. So I'm sure the 70%, 80% of these 59 attacks were bots, only bots, right? So let me show you just let me take some metrics out there, and we'll give you some real data. Okay.
So this is the Prophaze dashboard, is it? So
yeah, this is a Prophaze dashboard. Yeah.
So is there a specific way I need to set this up? I mean, like for my application, is there any, say for example, I have a Kubernetes application. I'm an application running on Kubernetes, specifically cloud native. And if I have to configure this one just to make sure that it is mitigating all this stuff, how do we configure it? And what is the architecture there? Like if you have any thing to show
of
that as
course,
well?
of course, I'm happy to share that. So typically, what we do is we install the we install a Kubernetes Ingress Controller. They call it by the name Ingress Controller, right? Ingress Controller is a piece of service which acts as a reverse proxy, right? A reverse proxy to the services inside a Kubernetes architecture, right? So what we do is we install a Prophaze Ingress Controller. It's actually Ingress Controller with Prophaze modules built with it, right? So we launch this and we install this on the customer Kubernetes cluster, and then we connect it here. You can see this screen, right? So this is, let's say this is IP and this is a token, and we set up, right? So once it does that, automatically what happens is that, let me go to this screen, the home page. That cluster get connected automatically. So let's say I'm connecting an USA Ohio cluster, right? Or I'm connecting an Asia Mumbai cluster. So what I can see all the APIs, you can see all the applications listed here, right? So automatically all the applications, all the services will be automatically enumerated and added to the Prophaze platform, so that by default they will get the protection. So then to see the statistics of the real-time statistics of each of the domain, you have to select each of the domain here and you have to press apply, right? So then you can go through each and every stats. Now That's one way of doing it. So that is for the Kubernetes customers. But there are more options for the SaaS customers. Say you don't have a Kubernetes, right? You just have an API or a web portal or a website. So easily you can do that. You can click here. Let's say you are securing API dot customer.com, right? I'm just typing it. .com, and you just select, and you have to put your actual IP address. So Prophaze will act as a front end, right? And there will be this IP will be served in the backend, so that your real IP address is not exposed to the internet. So only Prophaze will know it. So 2.3.5, I'm just typing some random IP, and then you select your region. So which region you want to host, which region your actual IP address was set. So in the same region, the Prophaze will spin its Kubernetes cluster all of a sudden, right? And if you have a private cluster, you can select that private cluster option here. So let's say this is the case of the SaaS. So I'm selecting Asia Mumbai, and I'm selecting so the only thing the customer has to do is to change the CNAME to api.customer.com, or the api.customer.com to secure.qwaf.com, or if he's having an AR record kind of a setup in the DNS, he has to put this IP address here. So click next. So all the HTTPS certificate, we will do that. We will have the HTTPS certificate built in. Next step, create. So 6 clicks to secure. So with Prophaze dashboard, it only take few seconds to go live with it. So only thing you have to do is you have to change your DNS on your DNS manager. So once you do it, that domain will be added here, straightforward, right, on the dashboard.
So two questions there. One, I can use it on the cluster.
Yeah.
So cluster level, it's not with your namespace or the differentiation there from a namespace and logically differentiating with respect to applications. So you're putting the control over cluster level.
Yeah.
And the second question is, what behaviors is basically you're looking at? You said it is based on the behaviors, right?
Yeah.
So what are those behaviors you are looking at to make sure that this is an attack and this should be stopped?
Okay, that's a very good question. So let me give you an answer on a high level, right? So typically, see, I mean, the IP threat score, IP reputation-based systems is pretty much obsolete these days. So let's say one IP address did some attacks, and all of a sudden that IP is released and going to a genuine user, because we got, if you look at our ISP, we are getting dynamic public IP address every time we switch on the modem, right? So these kind of systems where we can look at the history of that IP address and say that this is a good guy or a bad guy is anymore applicable, right? And the second thing is a rule signature based system. You say that, okay, this guy is doing this activity, then only he is blocked, else he is allowed, right? So that is also limited in the sense, we have to rely on all the rules and signature. It only blocks the non-attacks, unknown attacks, or the new sophisticated, intelligent attacks. You cannot do anything with it. So that's the reason why on a first level we went to the behavioral based detection system. Now, when it comes to the behavior, we don't look at the IP. We just, what we do is we use a mix of supervised and non-supervised algorithms, right, to understand the behavior of the genuine user on the platform. Let's say the case of let me take the case of the flight ticket booking website. Let's say Prophaze is securing a flight ticketing website, and we know that the customer will come, he logs in, he's searching for searching for the flight tickets from New York to London or whatever, right? And he found some, and he just buy it, he apply the coupon code, and he check out the transaction, right? So this is a normal flow of the user. So he must have spent X amount of time between every clicks, so he must have logged in from some other location, a particular location where he has logged in previously also. So these are the data points. Of course, any machine learning model needs data points, right? So we try to get as many as data points from the user behavior, the non-users. So we have a line there. So we know that this is how the user behaves or interact on this application. And typically what we do is we give them a score. Let's say the score of a particular user on an application is between 40 to 50. That's a genuine user. Now, hundreds or thousands of users like that will come and do the activity. Now, consider the second case where a malicious guy is coming in, he's logging in, and rather, or a bot, okay, is coming in and doing some activities which is not normal to the user, right? So because we have a line of anomaly, how the standard deviation works. So we know that how a normal user behaves, and we found that okay, this guy is having a different intent, doing a different activity. It can be any of the factors like Lakshmi said. You don't go directly to the contact us page. Once you log in, you automatically go to the home page. So if you going directly to the contact us page, that means you are a bot. You directly have that URL stored somewhere and you are going to it. So similarly, we enumerate multiple data points, more than 25 data points we get from the application, and we understand that this is not a normal indication. Now the score of that user will increase on a high, and automatically it will be blocked. Now, if you look at the bot mitigation tab here on the Prophaze, you can see that see these two IPs having a score of 98. See the others is having 0.07, 0.08. So that means a long deviation compared to the typical users. So the backend intelligent architecture did this. So it went. So every 5 minutes it's triggering. It will collect the sample of data for the last 5 minutes. Maybe let's say for one application, maybe 5,000 requests happens in the last 5 minutes, and compare that data, compare that with the model we already built in, and it will assign a score. Right? So that's how we are identifying it. And of course, let me tell you that if anybody is saying you that this will make you completely secure, that is just a false promise. So it's a cat and mouse game always. So we on a daily basis, our R&D team will find new and new use cases. I mean, interesting, challenging use cases, and we built the remedy for it. And again, they will break it. I mean, it's a game which is going on and on, right? So that's what we do on a high level. Hope I answered your question there.
Yeah, I got it. So that's a lot of data points,
Yeah.
and a lot of data science as well behind that. That's really good. And what is the implication of this on the performance of the application? So, say for example, I have an application running and I install this kind of a system to handle the bots, but now whether that will hamper the performance of the application because we are just trying to also figure out if this is a right request or not, right? So how exactly that will affect the performance of the application?
Let me tell you that there are two. I mean, there is only one performance impact, which is not with this learning. What I just said, right? It is with the implementation of a proxy, reverse proxy, right? So you have to get the real view of the traffic coming on. You need to work as a reverse proxy mode. The traffic will come to Prophaze and from Prophaze to the endpoint, right? Now, for instance, we are serving the Azure, so we have our whole infrastructure, deployed across Azure. So typically, if the customer is on the same Azure region, I mean, it's going to be the same within the same data center, right? So that there way we can reduce the latency. So only the latency is important. I mean, of course, there's a cost for this advanced security, right? The cost is the latency part, but it's not that too much. It's in microseconds. It's very negligible for the user experience. It's not going to affect the user experience in any ways. And number two, to the question you answered, in that sense, understanding this behavior and all those things, it's not going to affect. It is working parallelly, not in line with the process. So once they get in, we get the data from a data store, we analyze it, and then we send the control command to the platform, the agent, where it blocks that IP address. So it's not in line. The way in which the platform is understanding the bot behavior and iterating it through different algorithms. So that is not happening in line with the flow of the user, right? Only thing which is in the line of the flow of the user is a WAF as a reverse proxy. But this kind of learning is happening parallelly, and it's not going to impact any user performance.
And also to add on to that, Prophaze is actually designed in such a way that it even increases the performance of the web application, so that there's a lot of caching and a lot of things, and so it boosts the performance in a way, and adding to adding the security part. So that itself adds a lot to the application.
Absolutely, absolutely. For Lakshmi was referring specifically to the content-rich applications where we have a cache, we have an inline cache or dynamic cache is there. So that will actually improvise the performance with serving the static contents and some of the dynamic contents. So that way it is. But with respect to pure APIs, which doesn't have any images or something, they just API consumption, right? Consumption and response. So in that case, I mean, there will be slight latency will be there. Of course, there is something is in middle, right? So, but anyways, that is not going to affect how the thing is learning the machine. I mean, the model is understanding the existing traffic. It's not going to affect it in any ways.
Yeah, so this works with all the Ingress controller.
It works with so currently we are we have the architecture for Nginx Ingress controller. and the Kubernetes Ingress Controller. This contributes to maybe 80% of the whole Kubernetes installations. And we are experimenting that first stage with the traffic ingress controller. There is Istio service meshes. So we are expanding our product portfolios on that areas as well.
Okay, so just for the audience as well, right? So, um, the way I have understood this is I have my application, and I have a ingress controller of Prophase attached to that. I mean, ingress controller. I might have my own ingress controller like Nginx, and I add Prophaze to that and make sure that whenever traffic is going out and in, you're just going through this, and Prophaze captures that information and put it on the dashboard and does their own kind of backend, data science on it and figures out, this is something malicious bot which is hitting you, and then I can go and blacklist that particular IP and kill that, bad bot, right? This is how exactly it works in a nutshell.
That's great. Yeah, I mean your concept is perfectly correct,
Spot on.
and yes, and plus one more thing is that typically it can automatically, once it's identified that this is a bot, it can automatically ban it, right? So that advantage is also there, and also typically of course we always believe in a mixture of human intelligence and artificial intelligence, right? I mean we cannot process 1 million of data, right? The machine can do it, and it gives its insights. Now it's our decision to make it permanently ban or something. So that option is also there with Prophaze. You can manually do your input also. So that's how it works. Yeah.
So now come to a very important question, like how are you building this on Azure? So
Yeah.
what are the services you have, and how are you building this on Azure? Why do why are you choosing those kind of services as well? If you can throw some light there for the audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing is that it's a real fascinating growth in the industry. Like people are migrating to the cloud. It's happening on a big scale. So I should really congratulate the Azure team. They are doing a great job with the business. This is tremendous. I'm not naming the competitor. Everybody knows that. But still, within the midst of that crowd, Azure came up with the service, launched it, and you made it in a level which is convincing to the entire globe, right? So the business are adopting the Azure. So if you go to Middle East, everywhere, you can see the buzzword is Azure. So no doubt, I mean, the great work, Azure guys, we should really appreciate that. So, that made us to, the second part of it, that made us to have Microsoft as one of our partners. I mean, we understood that we cannot move without Microsoft in that sense. So, of course, we got, enabled by your startup ecosystem, and now we are becoming a partner. So all those thanks for that. And now, yes, now coming back to system where the entire landscape of the customers has been changed. So they want they're not just hosting on a dedicated server. They just want their cloud where their application has to be hosted in the cloud. So they are using multiple regions. It's not only restricted to one single region. They are choosing multiple regions, and with Azure we have the option to spin our, as I said, we built entirely on the Kubernetes architecture, right? So we use AKS, right? Azure Kubernetes Service we use, and we use the VMs, and we build Kubernetes architecture there as well. So typically, the advantage is that the scalability. We can scale into n number of sizes. So that's a good advantage we have here, especially dealing with the bots. You have a flood, DDoS attack is happening. So the cloud API allows us to expand vertically and horizontally, right? The infrastructure. So that's enabling us to do that. And typically the provisioning time is very faster, and of course very cost effective, I would say. And the power of the machines, the CPUs are very good, pretty good. I mean, they can do so we have coded our algorithm is more CPU intensive than memory intensive. So we can see that a very huge increase in performance of the ML data, right? So we have built the custom modules, and it's doing a good job on that sense. So we are still exploring. It's been we are complete. I mean, we have a core 50-60% of our architecture is now on Azure. So it's been 3-4 months since we are incubated, and we are exploring new features and trying to get into the Azure platform. So yeah, so this is all nutshell in which we are using the Azure to build the entire system.
And also, I want to add, being on the Azure marketplace also increases the visibility. So, I mean, that is also something that really helps the startup ecosystem. So, I mean, all these thanks to the Microsoft Partner Center for helping us with all the onboarding processes.
Yeah, I think marketplace is really good. So you can pretty much go back there and spin up, Prophaze with the Kubernetes cluster itself, and use it directly, right? So those kind of things we can obviously you can bring in with Azure. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just open the floor for audience also to ask questions. So if audience have any questions, please unmute yourself and ask questions, or you can also put it in the chat as well. I've been asking a lot of questions, I know, and I just don't want to be, I'm the only person who is asking questions. So
Even we are open to questions. So, anybody who's got any interesting questions, please do ask.
you can unmute and ask questions as well.
Vivek already asked all the interesting questions, so that, that's it
I'm
ended.
really sorry for taking it up.
It is good, in between you ask a lot of things, so it's very much clear about the bots and those things. And I'm trying to get the POC for this WAF maybe next week. So I'm trying to convince my project manager and product VP. So let's see.
Oh,
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
great.
Yeah.
Our pleasure, Harish. So we would definitely be looking forward to catch you up next week.
thank
Yeah. So, I mean, since already all the interesting questions have been asked by Vivek, others who have not, I mean, not so interesting questions also could ask. We are open to that as well. So, I mean, one thing that I would want to say is, just technology could be used in any ways. So, and it should, technology is a very useful servant, but it becomes a very dangerous master. So we all should ensure that, that technology does not become that dangerous master, and we should use it with the right kind of, intellect. We use, I mean, and also train our kids and the future generation also to use it wisely, so that we don't become slaves under this very dangerous master, that technology becomes into. Yes, questions? Any more questions?
I mean, that's a question from, Harian. Like, yes, recordings will be available. It will be on the YouTube, and we have a YouTube channel. I think Rashmita will posted that link as well before. It's
Yes,
there.
already there,
Yeah.
chat section, Vivek, yeah.
Yeah. You can just, wait for at least 48 hours. 48 hours, what means working, 48 hours with respect to working days, right? So today's already Friday, so you should wait till Tuesday or Wednesday to access this specific recording. Any other questions from the audience? Uh, And by the way, while we are waiting for you to ask questions, there is a survey link as well. Just, go into that link and key in the event ID, and that's the event ID for today's session. So just share your thoughts on uh, what about this particular event, and also let us know what other things you want to hear in at Azure Happy Hour or at the reactors. So please go ahead and share those details. And from next Azure Happy Hour, we have a series as well uh, from a Azure AI perspective. So we are going to spend a lot of time in terms of understanding Azure AI and specifically AI, how to work with AI and other things. And here is the link as well if you want to attend those sessions. It's going to start from 23rd Feb, and after that every Friday we will have this session going on. So here is a link which I have shared in the chat. So please do join, It's pretty interesting. It's almost like covering everything with respect to AI. Any questions specific for Vaishak and Lakshmi? I should have not asked so many questions. So,
Yeah, I mean, even if you have, if you later on get any kind of questions, you could also reach out to us through our LinkedIn pages too, or even you could drop
there is
into
a
our
there
website.
is a question from Shashank. So he's asking about you know yes, there are good bots and bad bots, and if you can throw some light on how this particular specific software would distinguish between good and bad. Like, how do you say this is good? How do you say this
Bot
is bad?
mitigation.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because there are bots, right? Because there is also a good bot which is which is
That's
good
good
for
things.
the application. Yeah. So how do you differentiate that?
Yeah, so typically, the bots behave in more or less same way, right? One is for the good intent and one is for the bad intent. It's definitely different from human. So this question got very good significance. But the straightforward answer to this is typically all the good bots publish their range of IP addresses, right? Like Google bot, Yahoo bot, Amazon bot, Bing bot. Everything is there, right? So they will publish their range of IP address from where they are operating. So nobody can spoof the IP address. They can spoof the user agent and other things, but they cannot change the IP address from where they are coming from, right? So typically all those, typically whenever a good bot is there, we already have it in our whitelist automatically, so it can go through. So we don't block the good bots in that way. So typically that's how we identify on a high level. And of course, if you look at the intention of the good bots, if you look at the behavioral thing, I mean, we can see straightforward, we can see that those patterns are pretty much same, right? They might be indexing through, let's say Google bot indexing through all the pages in the website. If there's a new post is published, the LinkedIn bot will come, the Twitter bot will come. So all these are different, very known patterns. So we have a profile of these patterns and which can easily identify. So that is another way of doing it.
And also, like as I already mentioned while I was through the slides, that the bad bots will have some kind of malicious intention. So when they come onto your application, either you could see the sudden spike, they directly land onto some other page instead of the home page, and they visit or do some activity multiple times. So all these activities that or the behaviors that actually deviate from the normal behavior, you could differentiate that this is a bad bot. So that is one. It's just like normal. I mean, how do you differentiate a human? I mean, a normal person or a thief. The thief will act suspicious. So that is how he is screened. But there are smarter people who act very normal. So even we have smart bots. For them, as Vaishak said, we will have to look into their uh, IP range so that we could differentiate. I guess we have one more question. Do we?
Yes. So it's basically difference between Turanj virus and the bad bots. And can Turanj be made into a bad bot?
Yeah, so Trojan viruses are kind of
Trojan, sorry.
yeah, so they are kind of getting they're kind of getting the key logging of your application. I mean, what are things you do as a key logger and get many things out of your system and feeding it out, right? So of course, the relation between the bad bot and Trojan is that this bad bot contains the payload of the Trojan virus, which is then injected into the system. That's how it works, right? So that's the difference between that. So bots are there to automate something, and Trojan is to Trojan or anti or malwares. Trojan or malwares are interchangeably the same these days. So these guys will fetch the information from a server and will send it back. So the bad bots can be a messenger for this Trojan. I mean, so they put all these
I mean,
things.
also Vishak, like it can be used as an entrant, to create bots, right? I
Yeah,
mean, the
so
Trojan.
that can also happen. Typically, how this Trojan got infused into the system is one thing we need to investigate. And this Trojan can work as a bot. It can work as a bot and use that computer's credentials to infect other machines. So yeah, interchangeably can be used. Yeah.
So another thing to add here is so basically, you you are using username and password from the attackers, right? You are using that and then logging in and doing stuff. uh, as they mentioned, right, it is basically a behavioral, figuring out the attack from a behavior. So
Yeah.
what happens is it's basically at the end of the day, if the behavior is not right, then we know that it is a bot, right? And it does not matter whether it is coming from your machine, who is
Yeah.
also a good guy. I might be a good guy who's sitting in my machine, but I would have clicked some link, and because
You
of
never
that
know.
my data
Yeah.
is, yeah, data is available with the hacker, and he's using my data to attack the system. But at the end of the day, the tool is actually using the behavioral points to make sure that it's a bot or not. So it does not matter whether it is coming
Yeah.
from me or it is coming from bot.
Yeah, that's a very interesting, a very relevant point you mentioned, Vivek, in the current times, because you never know. You cannot trust the IP address. I mean, you should have a system. Not only with Prophaze, any other cybersecurity product should think in this direction, right? You cannot, the word zero trust is a buzzword, right? So what is a zero trust? As a another big topic, right? So you cannot trust anybody. That's reality. You have to trust on the behavior of that. The intention should be different, right? If you are a bad bot and you are doing nothing bad, that means you are a good bot. So only when you are a bad bot, your intention is different, right? So your behavior changes. So that's what Prophaze does. That's a value addition Prophaze does in that sense.
Yeah, and these days you never know, even if you have a system which doesn't have any data also. I mean, you might be thinking my system will not have any relevant data. So why should I be bothered about security? But your unknowingly a hacker might have accessed your system and would be using your system, which is in some other part of the world, to launch attacks in some other part of the world to actually get data so that he could use it in his favor for some kind of monetary advantages that he would have. So I mean, you never know what how you would actually become a prey in this world. So it's to be a very highly cautious living that we have to follow.
Simple rule: don't click. Don't click anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what the bots are there. They automate the clicks for you. That's also the thing, right?
otherwise we will have to
uh,
go back into the ancient man era, wherein you don't have anything attached or connected to the internet.
exactly. Cool. I think that's pretty much questions we had. I mean, we can wait for 2 more minutes. If you have any questions, you can just put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask. Else, if you have any questions after this session as well, you can reach out to Lakshmi and Vaisakh. Their LinkedIn profiles are there in the meetup.com itself, so you can go and just connect with them and ask those questions which you want some answers for. Or else you can also reach out to me if you need anything. That's something which we can say. And thank you for being here, Lakshmi and Vaishak. And it's an interesting one. I learned a lot of stuff, specifically how I can build a good bot, not the bad
Yes.
ones, but the good ones, which we can obviously use it for good purpose. And that's something which I learned. And yes, Rashmita, you have any specific closing message?
No, Vivek, I'm all good, but just want to thank Vaishak and Lakshmi so much. I mean, it was amazing session, and thank you, Vivek. As usual, you're a lovely host, and thank you all for joining us today. Please visit our Microsoft Reactor meetup page. There are very interesting sessions coming up, and thank you all once again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks,
So,
Ashmita, and thanks,
yeah,
Vivek.
thank you, Rashmita
Thank
and
you.
Vivek. Even we enjoyed it. Was our pleasure. So, thank you for inviting us. And even we enjoyed being a part of the session and also interacting with Vivek, the way he asked questions, and it was really nice, a very interactive one. We had a good Friday evening, a good takeaway for a good weekend to start off. I hope everybody else who joined us also could take away something good from this session, so that we are all aware of what's actually happening around the across the globe, and what are the plus points and the minuses, and how all we should be cautious. And so that, as Vivek rightly said, do not click anything that looks suspicious. be it on your mobile or on your desktop. So it's like, be it, even if you win the, the biggest lotteries that you've ever, be it, whatever $1 billion lottery that you're actually getting. So just close your eyes and, shift delete. That's it. That's the best way.
Close your eyes and tell it is not for you. It's not for
It's
you.
not, it's just a dream. Yeah. So that's way how we can, be safe. So stay safe and hope all you guys will have a great weekend. And let's. And even if you don't have any questions, also you could connect to us on our LinkedIn pages. We would love to actually have a chat with all of you guys. Okay, so thank you, Rashmita
Okay.
and
Thank
Vivek,
you very much. Bye
again
bye.
once
Take
again.
care. Have a nice weekend.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
So we